Oh hi, I'm David, and this is my unofficial last book haul of 2017. With the mid-year freakout tag floating around Booktube, it made me think back to good old January, when I set my New Year's resolutions. Like most people on Booktube, I have a book-buying addiction, so I decided to help cut back on expenses and also allow me to plow through this massive TBR I have. I would only buy 12 books a year, which is a pretty lofty resolution for me. 12 books. That's doable, right though? That's only one book a month. So, this is my unofficial last book haul of the year, because, well, if I have another book haul, then I totally broke my resolution. Now I know what you're thinking, but David, you already had a book haul this year on your channel. And those are all books that I hauled during the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales of 2016. So I pretty much bought all of those books last year, but I bought them during the same window of time, and I bought so many of them that I had to make a book haul video over it, but I had got them all before I started my channel. Now, in no particular order, here are the books that qualified for my last book haul of the year. There's a huge amount of variety in the books that I picked up. I got this book on my trip to Washington, D.C. I really wanted to get a souvenir or something to help me remember my trip by, and I saw this book on display in one of the shops as I was passing, and I had heard of it before because it was written by the person who hosts one of my favorite YouTube cooking shows, of all things. And I never imagined I would have seen it in person, and I've been making some of the recipes already, and whenever I would make them for my friends or family, they would reluctantly try the recipes, but usually like them, and I liked most of them as well. It's a cookbook, and it's called Raw Vegan, Not Gross. I am not a vegan, but I am a vegetarian, and I've been a vegetarian since December of 2012, roughly. I mean, if I had to estimate, I don't have photo-perfect memory. I think health and nutrition is important, and food is our fuel, so it's important to know what goes in our bodies. This book is one I picked up on discount at Books A Million, and I got it off Booktube Recommendations. The next two books are, actually. The first one of which being Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls. I myself am writing a book about a teenage girl who deals with suicide and depression, and so I wanted to read more books that dealt with this theme. The next book I picked up from Booktube Hype was The Maze Runner by James Dashner, and this is actually the collector's edition, and it comes with The Maze Runner and The Scorch Trials, so it's really hard to turn down a double feature, am I right? And I got the whole thing for $5, which was pretty hard to beat, if you ask me. The next book I picked up was by fellow YouTuber Joanna Penn, and I think I've seen literally all of her videos. She does podcasts interviewing other authors, and writes thrillers of her own, as well as nonfiction. I picked up two of her books this year, the nonfiction one being The Successful Author Mindset, and this one has had some useful tips and tricks inside, although I haven't finished it yet, so I will be excited to do that. The next book I picked up was Crypt of Bone by J.F. Penn. This is the sequel to Stone of Fire, which I got as an ebook and then added the audiobook onto, which was pretty nice being able to have that combination and just hearing the story in an audio format. I figured I am one of those people who doesn't like to mix editions of their books if they're reading a series, but this is one of those series that I figured I would just give it an exception and just mix the whole way through to just see which way I liked the series better. So I went with the print edition for the sequel. I'm glad I did that, because now I get to see the story in its printed format, and it is quite nice. I really enjoyed the way that this book expanded on the story of the first one, and am definitely interested in continuing the series further. The next book I picked up was Architects of the Gifted, The Whisper War, which is the sequel to The Scarlet Reaper, also by a fellow YouTuber, KMC Cross, from his channel Wolf Shop Publishing, which I'll be sure to link in the description down below. This book expanded on the storyline of the first one fantastically, and added more characters, and was really engaging to read. I'll definitely be interested in picking up the third book when that comes out. Okay, you guys, I know what you're thinking. David, you said your New Year's resolution was to only buy 12 books in this year. And, well, if there are 3 books in one edition, that is still only one book, isn't it? Like, let's not split hairs now, alright? Because the next book I picked up is 3 in 1, and it's The Nightblade Epic by Garrett Robinson. I really like watching his YouTube videos, and that's how I found out about this awesome edition of his first 3 novels in one giant book here. So I'm super excited to get into this, and I can't, it's on my TBR. I'm super excited and I can't wait to get into this book. Are you still watching? Good, you've made it this far. Well, now your reward is you get to see my geeky side with the books I bought this year. I love tie-in paperback novels that tie into movies or science fiction. I don't know, I'm a big fan of those types of books. And I also really love video games, so I love video game tie-in novels as well. So here it is, you guys. You get to see the novels I picked up, which are kind of an odd collection. The next book I picked up was Alien Covenant. I love movie tie-in novels or movie novelizations, and I had a friend that wanted to get me into the Alien series, which I have, surprisingly enough, not seen any of the films for. So I thought I would start the film series with the pre-boot, or whatever it is you would like to call it, Prometheus, because I knew Alien Covenant was coming out, and they basically serve as prequel storylines to the main series. So I thought I would start with the prequels and then work up to Alien and Aliens, since I've heard those are the best films in the series, so I was like, might as well work up to those, right? So I picked up Alien Covenant, and I hope to read this soon. I have already seen the film, and I generally enjoyed it. It was a pretty competent action film, and that's what it was trying to be. So I'm super excited to read this novelization of the film to see if it adds any new plot arcs or elements that were absent in the film, or if it adds or, resolves any plot issues or plot lines from Prometheus. The next book I picked up is another 3-in-1 combo, and it's Aliens Omnibus 1. And I actually picked this book up, one, because it's in the Alien series, of course, and I really want to get into that series, and then secondly, is I actually picked this one up because I was interested in the authors, believe it or not. The author of the Resident Evil novels is actually in this collection, as well as her father, which I thought was really cool. He wrote, I believe, the first 2 stories, yes, and she worked with him on the last one, so I can't wait to see how they work together and how his writing reads. As you might already know if you've seen my Booktube newbie tag, I got into reading by reading Buffy the Vampire Slayer tie-in fiction when I was in 3rd grade. So needless to say, growing up and even now, my life and my reading and entertainment life has been filled with strong female characters. One of the first games I ever picked up when I was a kid was Tomb Raider. And I could go on for days about the Tomb Raider films or the state of the series now or any of its installments, but this isn't a gaming channel, so I'll leave that for a different video. But I did decide to go back and pick up the novelization for the original Tomb Raider film, seeing as how there'll be a reboot film coming out this year, I think, or next year. So I thought I'd go back and look at these old movies and see what gave them their charm. Another thing that this book does that I haven't seen books do in a while, that I don't know if I necessarily miss, but I think is kind of cool, is that this book actually includes pictures, which I think is pretty snazzy. Of course, since it's a, book written over a movie, so I think that's pretty alright, man. The next book was one I was very excited for, and earned a spot on my list of 12 books as soon as I made my New Year's resolutions, before we had even reached this year, because I had done a whole bunch of research on the film, and yes, it is another movie novelization, and it would be for Resident Evil's final chapter. This novelization is epic. It does a fantastic job of supplementing the film storyline, and really clearing up any issues or vagaries or inconsistencies or continuity errors between the film and its predecessors. And yeah, this book continued on the storyline of the film pretty awesomely. And I would recommend it for anyone who saw that movie and liked pretty much anything about it and felt slightly unsatisfied in any way. This book will probably fix that. And now, I saved the best for last. At least in the flashiest, most artistic book of the ones I picked up this year, was an Elvira photo book. Now, those of you who are unfamiliar with Elvira, she was a popular 80s horror hostess and hosted late-night B-horror films on television. She later went on to get 2 feature films of her own, and her series came back for a brief run in around 2011, I believe, Movie Macabre. So this year is the 30th anniversary of Elvira, I think this year or last year. One of them, I think last year. Yeah, no, this book is huge, and it's got gorgeous artwork inside. I plan to review the book in full because before I bought it, I looked up reviews and I found like one video in German of a guy flipping through it. Because if I'm gonna buy an art book, I want to know what the artwork looks like inside. And all of these were hand-picked photos of Elvira over her 30-year career. This gorgeous photo book contains iconic photos from her first photo shoot as Elvira, all the way up until her last series of Movie Macabre. So I thought that was pretty epic to get to follow the long history and evolution of Elvira in one kind of giant coffee table art book. Well, that's all I got for you today. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to drop me a like. And if I post another book haul video before the year's up, we'll all know I broke my New Year's resolutions. So, this was my unofficial last book haul of 2017.